Very run down. A lot of the buildings were in really bad shape. All these buildings behind us, the keyhole buildings, were falling down, that metal building down, there were big holes in the roof.
Beneath the arm of the man lift, decades of neglect were finally being addressed.
And the gas company had long since gone. The buildings hadn't been used in years, and they were really in bad shape and falling down.
There was a person from the city of Savannah who was like taking notes, and Charles comes up, introduces himself, and how can I help you? And he says, oh, we're from the city. We're going to condemn these buildings because they're in such bad shape. Charles, not these buildings. These buildings are all going to get saved.
Frances had cancer and she knew she was dying. She was very courageous. We went out with her a number of times when I knew she was in a great deal of pain, but she never complained. She was always more concerned about Rick and her family, and she was just a courageous person, and just never was concerned about herself down to the very end.
She's the most courageous individual I've ever seen, and it was the perfect story, and she was the perfect person.
She did it the way it was supposed to be done.
Style. She had great style. She was so wonderful.
Put it this way, I've got 3 grandchildren, and I will tell them the Frances Meyer story.
A self-made man, Curtis Cooper didn't know he was poor on the West Side, didn't know there were things he couldn't do, things that were impossible. So he did them, time and time again.
His human instincts to help others in need were overpowering. You could never say no to the man because what he was asking for was right.
It didn't matter what subject or what era it was. He always seemed to have done his homework, and when he stepped forward, he knew what he was talking about. And then whatever he said he was going to do, he did it.
Malcolm Maclean was a remarkably talented man, lawyer, U.S. Naval Commander, Mayor of Savannah, devoted father, a unique individual who possessed an enormous array of talents and lived his life purposefully.
I think like all great men, and I think Malcolm Maclean was a great man, he was a complicated person. He had great wit, but he had a great seriousness of purpose. He was a hard worker, but he believed in the importance of recreation. He loved tennis. Anyone who knew him knew that. He was devoted to his profession and to his community, but he was also devoted to his family. He had great intellect, but he could converse with anybody. Those factors made Mr. Maclean the great lawyer that he was and the great teacher that he was.
And it's just natural that here with Savannah on the march, with the spirit that we have, that
he believed in young people. He really did. He believed in giving them a chance, and I was very fortunate to be one of those people he believed in. When I became head of CNS down here, that's from Mills Lane.
Yes, sir.
Congratulating and just saying, don't mess it up, boy.
He probably has the keenest business sense of anyone I've encountered in my years in Savannah. He's an outstanding businessman. I've had the privilege of serving on several boards, corporate and community boards with him, and he quietly takes the leadership role in anything good that's happened in Savannah, and there have been a lot of good things. Arnold Tenenbaum's fingerprints and footprints all over it.
The business world and the charitable world and the cultural world, the political world. He's been involved in so many different ways, and that's what I think really is the outstanding quality that jumps out in my mind when I think about Arnold, is the depth and breadth of his involvements.